There's so much confusion about positive thinking and motivation that I'd like to kind of share with you some ideas about what the real positive thinking is, what motivation is, what it will do, and what it won't do. Several years ago, I was on one of the national news programs. It was an absolutely magnificent experience. Man, I wish they'd show that sucker again. I sold a bunch of stuff. But the old boy that did the interview was really something else. He was so skeptical, he'd demand a bacteria count on the milk of human kindness. I honestly believe that he believes, really he's so cynical that he still thinks somebody pushed Humpty Dumpty. I mean, you have seen the kind. His opening statement to me, I mean, the first cracker out of the barrel after he had turned on the cameras, you know, he said, Zig, you go all over the country talking about positive thinking, making money, going to the top. He said, you're so positive, you think you could whip Muhammad Ali? Well, folks, that's dumb, even though I fought in the ring 2 years. And it's a matter of record, just for your information, that the worst I ever finished was second. As a matter of fact, the only reason I quit was because of my hands. The referee kept stepping on them. No, I don't think I could whip Muhammad Ali. For that matter, I don't even think I could take your appendix out, sir, and have you live. But I tell you what, I'll bet you. I'll bet if you and I were on a desert island 1,000 miles from everybody else, and all of a sudden you said, oh, my ciders. And I'd say, let me see. Put my hand on your side, it's burning up with fever. I'd say, man, you got appendicitis, but that's no big deal. I've been watching a lot of television recently, seen no less than a dozen doctor shows in the last month alone. And they were all specializing in appendectomies. I watched them real good. It is not a difficult operation. As a matter of fact, I brought me some good sharp knives with me, got me some good powerful germ-killing medicines. And you know me, I'm so optimistic I'd go after Moby Dick in a rowboat and take the tartar sauce with me. Man, I believe we're going to be able to get them out of there. Now, I believe that you would prefer that I took that approach instead of looking at you and saying, man, you're going to die. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that the first approach would give him an infinitely better chance of surviving than would the second one. But let me lay it on the line because this is so important. I get upset with these highly motivated, very sincere, completely in their own mind, honest individuals who will stand up and tell somebody else, man, with positive thinking, you can just do anything. And ladies and gentlemen, that simply is not so. How many of you recognize the name Magic Johnson? Can I see your hands? Okay. Magic Johnson is a highly motivated, very enthusiastic, extraordinarily skillful basketball player. He is 6 feet 9 inches, 245 pounds of highly skilled athlete. He's a positive thinker. He's highly motivated. He's really turned on. But I'm here to tell you that despite all of his success as a basketball player, I'm completely convinced that Magic Johnson would be a total and complete failure as a jockey. How many of you would agree with that assessment? All right. Refrigerator Perry just flat couldn't cut it in ballet. I mean, he just could not. Now, I'm a positive thinker. But if you were facing major surgery, I would not recommend me to perform the operation. No, I want to make it absolutely clear that positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. Can you buy that idea? Would you agree that positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything better than negative thinking will? And my friend, that is good enough. Let me tell you what positive thinking will do. Positive thinking will permit you to use the qualities which you have. And when you use the qualities which you have, my friend, you can get the things in life that you really want. Motivation. What is motivation anyhow? Many times the media asks me the question. They say to me, Zig, you go around and you're going to be talking to these people. You got this 4-hour seminar, and in this seminar you're going to keep them all of that time. Let me ask you, are you going to get them excited? And I say, well, those folks are already excited, okay? You're going to get them excited even more so. And I said, yeah, they sure hope so. They bought a ticket and they want it to be a good investment. Okay, where will they be a month from now, a year from now? You know what they're really asking me? They are asking me, is motivation permanent? And the answer, ladies and gentlemen, emphatically not. Motivation is not permanent. But then neither is bathing, is it? But does that mean I'm opposed to bathing? Or does that mean I want to do it every day? I want to do it every day. And motivation is in exactly the same category. You need it every day of your life. Why? Because there's a lot of stinking thinking going around, and that's what messes your mind up. I want to show you what I believe motivation is. If you will look very carefully, you can see this grid, and you will notice, ladies and gentlemen, that it has a simple question: how many squares do you see? The average person immediately said, well, I see 16 squares there, and there are 16, but if you will look a little more carefully, you will see that the entire figure is a square, so that makes it 17. And then right in the very center, there's another square that makes it 18. But notice this, right here is another square that makes it 19. Here's another one that makes it 20. Here's another one that makes it 21. And here's another one that makes it 22. But follow me now, because right here is another square that makes it 23. Here is another one that's 24. Here is another one that's 25. And here is another one that brings it to 26. But watch this. Come across 3 and down 3 and across 3 and up, and there's one that makes it 27. Here's yet another one that's 28. Here is another one that's 29. And ladies and gentlemen, there is another one. That means there literally are 30 squares there. Now I want to ask you a question. And I'm not trying to trick you with this, but I do tell folks I'm kind of like a cross-eyed discus thrower. I don't set any records, but man, I keep the crowd alert, okay? Here's the question. How many squares did I add after I drew the original figure? Anybody? 14, okay? Let me ask it in a different way. How many squares, Portland and Kansas City, did I add after I drew the original figure? None, did I? Absolutely none. All I did was say, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. I just identified what is there. What is motivation? To motivate is to draw out or to pull out. People ask me, Ziegler, I'm going to listen to you through that seminar. What am I going to get out of it? And I have to be honest and say, not much. But let me tell you, friend, the seminar is going to get a lot out of you. You see, what we've done thus far is we have identified the qualities which you have inside of you. And the purpose now in helping you recognize those qualities and begin to develop those qualities, that's when things begin to happen. Motivation. So many people think that people who are motivated are always jumping up and down and whooping and shouting and hollering. A few years ago, I was speaking in Washington, D.C. I spoke to the National Council of Parents for Drug-Free Youth. It was a wonderful organization. Mrs. Reagan was there. Brooke Shields was there. She had done a commercial. I was the wind-up speaker that evening, and the audience was most appreciative and very responsive. They laughed at all of my jokes. Which is a sign of intelligence. They said nice things about me, you know, and so I went to bed, had a good night's sleep. Next morning I was down in the restaurant awaiting my turn to be seated. Now there were about a dozen people behind me, and the host had gone out to seat the couple in front of me, and so I was just standing there awaiting my turn. Now I don't know how you stand when you stand, but when I stand, I just stand. For example, I do not know how to stand motivated. So I just stand in there, and these three ladies walked in who had been there the evening before. And when they were across the restaurant, they spotted me, and in whispers that you could only hear about 100, 150, 200 yards, one of them said, "There's our speaker from last night." Second one said, "Yes, and he is obviously a night person." Third one said, he sure don't look motivated to me. Now, folks like to say, I don't know how you stand when you stand, but when I stand, I just stand. I don't know how to stand motivated. I don't know whether they expected me to be standing there looking out at everybody in the restaurant, grinning from here to here, maybe waving at them at the same time and jumping up and down while I'm doing it. That's motivation. That's insanity. That's what it is. Some of the most motivated people on the face of this earth are quiet people. They're not tub thumpers like we'd say down home, but when you get around them, you can feel the intensity of their excitement in what they are doing. That's what I'm talking about. Now, what we need to do is to have some motivation that really works. I'm confident that everybody here has noticed that when I do my talking, I do a lot of walking. And when I'm doing a lot of walking, I'm also doing an awful lot of looking. And I've been amazed at the youthfulness of this crowd here in Salt Lake City. Bunch of kids really is what we've got gathered together here today. I don't see anybody even old enough to know what I'm about to tell you. So I'll just have to tell you. When you get to be a certain age, there are physical and chemical changes which take place in the human body. And as you know, there's an awful lot of pollution out in the air. And when the pollution in the air gets together with the physical and chemical changes in the body, what happens is it destroys the strength of the lenses in your glasses. Maybe some of you are younger than I thought you were, older than I thought you were. Well, that happened to me. So I went down to see my good buddy Bob Bud Barker, the friendly optometrist, and Bob examined me for my new glasses. He wrote the prescription. He said, "Zig, see me next Tuesday." Well, the following Tuesday, I walked in to see my buddy Bob. He put these new bifocals on me, and he did a couple of adjustments. Said, "Well, how do they feel?" I said, "They feel great." He said, "They look good too. You're on your way." Well, I headed for the front door, and as I stepped out the front door, I did a couple of adjustments, as we always do. And my car is parked about 25 feet away, and I headed for my car. Now, you talking about a high-stepping dude, old Zigger's really picking him up and putting it down. Now, obviously, I did not realize that until I drew abreast of the car, and there my right leg was up about 4 feet, and I saw the reflection in the window. And you know how you do when you've done something not overly bright. You think everybody in town not doing a thing in the world but looking at you. So I looked around right quick to see if I'd been caught in the act. Nobody was paying me the least bit of attention, but realizing how totally ridiculous I must have looked, I couldn't help it. I just hollered out loud. I got so tickled. And then I got excited. Because though I've been doing this for many, many years, that day for the first time I clearly understood the role that I play in America today. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the reality is I'm an optometrist. And what I do is I go all over this land fitting people with new glasses. And what I've done for you today, whether you're in Salt Lake or Portland or Kansas City, what I have done for you today is brought you a brand new pair of glasses. I got to tell you something about these glasses. First of all, they will fit you perfectly. Second, they are absolutely not rose-colored. I will repeat what I've said a number of times, and that simply is that life is tough. But when you're tough on yourself, life can be enormously rewarding to you. But you got to be before you can do, and you got to do before you can have. Life demands first, and then it rewards you lavishly. These glasses, the second thing I'll tell you about them, they won't improve your sight one iota. If you've got good sight now, you'll have good sight afterwards. If you don't have good sight now, you'll have no improvement in your sight. But let me tell you the most important things these glasses will do. They will dramatically improve your vision. Helen Keller was asked the question, what would be worse than being blind? Without any hesitation, Helen Keller said it would be infinitely worse to have eyes but no vision than the other way around. The prophet of old said, my people perish for lack of a vision. What these glasses will do is they will permit you to see things right in front of you that you have been overlooking all of your life. Forbes magazine did a study, or reported on a study. And in this they revealed that entrepreneurs invariably, in an incredibly high percentage of the cases, make their money after they have moved to a new location. Now wait a minute. Don't start packing your bag yet. What they discovered was this. Many of those people made their money when they moved from Salt Lake City to Portland. But others made their money when they moved from Portland to Salt Lake City. Some made their money when they moved from Kansas City to Chicago, but others made their money when they moved from Chicago to Kansas City. What they discovered was very simple. The location really is not the point. Opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, is where you are. Calvin Hunt, good friend of mine down in Victoria, Texas. Calvin is in the life insurance business. In 1982, you know, in the insurance industry, they had a recession. As most of you know, the media has accurately predicted 28 of the last 2 recessions. Well, Calvin Hunt said to me, Zig, in the insurance business today, when we have a recession, our business drops about 10%. I mean, it goes down that much. But 50% of all of the agents either quit or quit trying. Now he said, Zig, if you got 90% as much business and 50% as much competition, then doesn't it figure that your business ought to at least double? And I said, Calvin, that's the way I see it. He said, that's the way I see it too. That's exactly what happened. Now the side note is this. He sells insurance contracts where the premiums are $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. The point I'm trying to make is the business is right here in front of us. Opportunity is right where you are, ladies and gentlemen. It is not in some faraway place with those strange sounding names. It is right here. And most people simply overlook it. Let me give you a very simple example of what I'm talking about. If you wear a wristwatch, whether you are in Portland or Salt Lake or Kansas City or wherever you are, if you wear a wristwatch, would you just hold up your hands, please? Now, do not look at your watch. Don't look at it. But did you know that the average American looks at his wristwatch 300 times a day? Oh, I didn't believe it either. They told me that. I said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard a grown man say. Why? If you look at your wristwatch 300 times a day, why, all you'd be doing is look at, man, get out. You'd never have time to do any work. Then one day I broke the band on my watch. The next 2 days, that watch was in my pocket. And for the next 2 days, I bet you I looked at that sucker how many of you know exactly what I'm talking about? Ever had that experience? You bet you. You will look at it 300 times a day. Now, sometimes in your spare time, when you've got nothing else to do, I want you to just kind of figure up what 300 times a day for a year is. It will blow your mind the thousands of times you looked at your watch, but I bet you still don't know what's there. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Now, Don't try to sneak a peek at your watch now. One more time is not going to hurt, not going to help you a bit. If thousands won't do it, one more is not going to help. I want to ask you 3 questions about your watch. Do not answer them out loud, and please don't turn to your next door neighbor and tell them what the answer is. You're going to get your chance in just a second. Question number 1, does your wristwatch have regular numerals or Roman numerals? How many of you just missed the first one? Can I see your hands? Come on now, be honest with me. All right. Question number 2. Does it have numerals at all? Or are they slashes or dots or blanks or emblems or a combination of all of them? Now, question number 3 is the tough one. And the reason it is so tough is simply because it has 4 parts. And for the benefit of our educators, they are not multiple choice. First part of the question, what's at the 12 o'clock slot? Think it through. What's at the 3 o'clock slot? What's at the 6 o'clock slot? And what's at the 9 o'clock slot? Now that you've thought those answers through, I want you to carefully, as a matter of fact, maybe for the first time since you have owned your watch, I want you to very carefully look at your watch. Now, I can't always interpret murmurs and giggles and all those kind of good things. And I certainly couldn't hear it from Portland and Salt Lake City. I mean, from Portland and Kansas City. But for those of you who are right here, how many of you missed at least one of the questions? Can I see your hand? Boy, about everybody's got their hand up. Now, how many of you remember just a few seconds ago when I said, now I want you to carefully, as a matter of fact, maybe for the first time since you've owned your watch, I want you to very carefully look at your watch. How many of you remember me saying that a few seconds ago? Okay, what time is it? Truth is, ladies and gentlemen, we have eyes to see, but see not. We have ears to hear, but hear not. We have hands to feel, and we feel not. We've got everything there in front of us, opportunity galore, and if we cannot even identify what's on our watch, doesn't it make sense that we need to open our eyes, adjust these magnificent new glasses you're being fitted with, and look around you and see what is there? Yes, this pair of glasses will let you see opportunity. But they do a whole lot more than that. This pair of glasses, ladies and gentlemen, will give you the proper look at other people. And the reason that is so tremendously important is because we have more happiness or more misery because of relationships than any other single factor. Good relationships bring happiness. Poor relationships bring incredible misery. And the way you look at people is so important because you treat people like you see them. And the way you treat them determines what the relationship is going to be. This pair of glasses will let you see people properly. Andrew Carnegie was the first great industrialist that our society produced. At one time, he had 43 millionaires working for him. This was over 100 years ago. Now, 100 years ago, a millionaire was somebody with money. I mean, they were flat rich. A reporter heard of this phenomenal fact. He went to Mr. Carnegie and he said, Mr. Carnegie, how on earth did you manage to hire 43 millionaires? And Andrew Carnegie said, well, when I hired them, none of them were millionaires. Then the obvious question comes forth, and that question is, what on earth did you do to develop them to the degree that they became so valuable to you that you were able to pay them enough money that they became millionaires? And Andrew Carnegie taught us one of the most tremendous lessons that you will ever hear when he taught us this. He said, you develop people in precisely the same way you mine gold. When you go in a gold mine to mine the gold, you will move tons of dirt to find an ounce of gold. But you don't go in there looking for the dirt. You go in there looking for the gold. What a tremendous lesson there is in that. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm convinced that you were born to win. But in order to be the winner you were born to be, you got to plan to win, you got to prepare to win, and you got to expect to win. And what this pair of glasses will do, it will be to help you become the winner you were born to be, and work with and develop others and help them to become winners as well. About a year ago, University of Pittsburgh released a study. And in this study, which incidentally was published all over our country, it was published in the Dallas papers, and the local paper called me and they said, are you familiar with the Pittsburgh study? And I said, as a matter of fact, I am. It's not a new study. It's been done a dozen different times. They said, well, what do you think about it? And I said, well, of course, it's accurate. They said, you mean you believe it? I said, of course I believe it, because it's happened so many times. It's got to be truth. What the study showed was that in the business world, tall men and women do better than short men and women. Now, before any of you short folks start throwing rotten fruit at me, give me a chance to explain what I'm going to. But let me ask you the question to begin with. To begin with, you know beyond any doubt that the distance from your heel to your head has got nothing whatever to do with what's stored there. Now, you know that, don't you? The answer is yes. I'll help you with these tough ones, okay? There's no question about it. And yet it's an absolute fact that tall men and women do better than short men and women. Now, why? The answer is because of conditioning and because of prejudice. Let me see a show of hands from all three audiences. How many of you have ever been lost, I mean just flat lost, in a strange town? Would you mind holding up your hands, please? Okay. How many of you, when you got lost, saw some kids playing and you went over to the kids and you asked the question, how on earth do I get from here to there? How many of you have ever specifically had that experience? Okay. Now, everybody simultaneously, out loud, enthusiastically, which one of the kids did you ask? The tallest, the biggest. Why? Might have been the dumbest kid in town. He might have been lost too. But the reality is, you ask the tallest and the biggest one because of conditioning and prejudice from birth in our society. We use an entirely different vocabulary on the tiny baby and the petite child as versus from the larger baby or the larger child. The vocabulary is totally different. How many times have I done it and heard it done? My, what a fine looking young man, or what a fine looking young lady. But what about Shorty? Oh, isn't she cute? And the truth is, there are not many, quote, cute CEOs or bank presidents or college presidents. I noticed something with enormous excitement. When you started giving me these qualities, I did not hear a single one of you say, I want somebody who is 6 feet 1 inch tall, or I want somebody who is handsome or beautiful. What you did say is, I want somebody with the qualities that will make a difference in my organization. These are the things that you identified, and rightly so. These are the things we can do something about. So how do we handle? Well, the first thing we do is we start teaching these qualities. The second thing we do is we listen to the lesson of Oliver Wendell Holmes. Oliver Wendell Holmes was an absolutely remarkable man. He was a brilliant inventor, outstanding jurist, remarkable writer, 5 feet tall. One day somebody asked him, Judge Holmes, how does it feel to always be in the company of men and women who are so much bigger and taller than you are? And Judge Holmes had a tremendous sense of humor, which is one of the qualities you identified as being important in a person's life. Judge Holmes looked at that person with a grin on his face and he said, well, I feel like I imagine a dime must feel when it's thrown in with a whole bunch of nickels. Half as big, worth twice as much. Let me tell you what gives people value. Let me tell you what are the keys to success that will move you up. These are the ones you have identified them right along because they paint the picture of you. And the picture of you is so important. Dr. Joyce Brothers was 100% right when she said that you cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. Ben Hooper could tell you about that. When Ben was born many, many years ago, he was really in a difficult situation. You see, his mother was not married. And in that day and age, they said some terribly ugly things about the child who obviously had nothing whatever to do with his birth. The kids were mean and ugly to him. The adults were mean and ugly to him. And when he went into school, the kids ostracized him. Many of the parents said, what on earth is a boy like that doing here at school? At recess, he studied at his desk. At lunch, he went off and ate it by himself. On Saturday, when his mother took him into town, the adults gave those disapproving comments and glares. It was tough. Then one day, a new young preacher moved into that little community in the hills of Tennessee. And Ben Hooper started hearing about him. One Sunday, he went down to the church. After it had started, he kind of sneaked in the back, quietly took a seat, and he ran out before the services ended. But he liked it. And the next Sunday, he was back, and the next. But each Sunday, he would arrive late and leave early. But then one Sunday, he got so carried away with it that he was still seated when suddenly the services had ended, and he was surrounded by people. The young preacher was there, and the next thing Ben Hooper knew was when he felt those hands on his shoulder. And he turned around and was looking into the eyes of the preacher. The preacher looked at him and he said, whose boy are you? Which family are you from? There was a tense moment of silence. Then a big smile crossed the preacher's face. He said, oh, I know the family you belong to. The resemblance is unmistakable. You're a member of the family of God. That's quite an inheritance, boy. He swatted him across the rear lovingly and said, go and live up to your inheritance. Ben Hooper later said that that was the day he was elected governor of the state of Tennessee and re-elected later. That picture you have of yourself, you were born to win. Not who the parents are, but what you do yourself in recognizing what you've got. Emerson was 100% right when he said that what lies behind you and what lies before you pales in significance when compared to what lies within you. St. Augustine in 399 AD expressed it this way, and I paraphrase him. He said, man travels hundreds of miles to gaze at the broad expanse of the ocean. He looks with awe at the heavens above. He looks in amazement and wonderment at the fields and the mountains and the rivers and the streams. And then he passes himself by without a thought. God's most amazing creation. Yes, you were born to win. And when you look at the qualities you have, my friends, that really does make you a winner. I spoke this summer up in a small community in Indiana. 3 days later, I got a letter from a lady who had been there. She said, Mr. Ziegler, I was at the seminar and I had just gotten back from Colorado. She said, I'd been rafting down the river. It is a beautiful sight. At night, I had been backpacking and I would camp on the highest hill that I could reach. And she said, as I would stand there and look at the grandeur of the universe, the beauty of the mountains, as I would look at the sunrise in the morning and watch it set in the evening, a feeling of absolute despair really encompassed me. She said, I felt so little and so insignificant. Then you quoted St. Augustine, and we pass ourselves by without a thought. Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. She said, I was contemplating suicide. I look forward to the future now. You see, the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, inside of us there is so much. Man was designed for accomplishment. He's engineered for success. He's endowed with the seeds of greatness. I'm absolutely convinced that total success, absolute total success, is very, very possible. I want to share with you what my perspective of success is all about. Everybody maybe has a different view. I want to share with you what I think success really is. From my perspective, ladies and gentlemen, if I were to make literally millions and millions and millions of dollars, but in the process destroy my integrity and destroy my health, then I would have paid a price which would be unacceptably high. There would be no way I would be willing to do it. If I were to go all the way to the top, become the best in the whole world in this profession, and then one day have one of my children come to me — I have 4 grown children — had one of my children come to me and said, you know, Dad, it would have meant so much to me when I was a youngster growing up if I ever could have known you as my father. Had you ever been there in the morning, Dad, give me a little pep talk as you've given so many other people those pep talks when I had to go off and face a tough day at school, maybe a bully, maybe a tough test. Maybe my boyfriend and I had been having difficulty. If you'd ever been there at night, Dad, maybe to hug away some of my hurts and kiss away some of my tears, put me in bed, tell me some of the stories you tell people all over the world, give me some of the advice you've given to other people. Maybe, Dad, had you been there, maybe my life would not have been the series of tragedies which it has. Folks, if that happened to me, I'd be one more broken-hearted daddy, because like most parents, I deeply love my children. I'm just so grateful that I was able to dedicate raising positive kids in a negative world to my 4 as being the most positive kids that I know anywhere. I could have added, and the most morally sound. I add that simply because, according to my friend Fred Smith, one of the most brilliant men I've ever known in my life, Fred says that all great failures are moral failures. Ask Pete Rose. Ask Ivan Boesky. Ask Richard Nixon. Ask Jimmy Baker. Moral values, moral qualities. Those are the things that I noticed that you identified repeatedly when we were talking about the people who want to be successful. These are the qualities which we need to develop. And in my drive for fame and fortune, had I ruptured the relationship with that beautiful redhead whom God gave me over 43 years ago, I'd be the most miserable human being you've ever seen. Because I'll confess to you that after 43 years, not only do I deeply love my wife, not only is she by far the most important person on the face of this earth to me, but the reality is I've just plain got a crush on that redhead. Somebody asked me one time, Zig, what do you do for excitement? I said, I married it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say something. I believe that can be had in so many other families. Not easy. It's something that you have got to work for. Earlier on in the seminar, I mentioned that at age 45, I was broke and in debt. And that's absolutely the truth. We'd been married 27 years before I was ever able to give my wife financial security. Now, that doesn't mean we were broke all of the time during those 27 years. But it does mean there were an awful lot of down times. There was one period, for example, of 5 years when I was in 17 different businesses. I truly was a wandering generality. I got involved in every get-rich-quick scheme that came down the road. I finally got so broke, I just flat had to go to work. But during all of those years, not once did the redhead ever say, honey, if we just had a little more money, here's what we could do. It was always, you can do it. Tomorrow is going to be better. Ladies, I cannot begin to tell you what it meant to me to have every day of my life a cheerleader saying, you can do it, cheering me on every day and praying me on every night. And gentlemen, there's no way I can describe to you what it will mean to your marriage, what it will mean to your relationship, what it will mean to your wife for you to get in her corner, to become her cheerleader, cheering her on, encouraging her, believing in her, supporting her, giving her that positive input and encouragement that will make such a dramatic difference. Yes, indeed. The beautiful thing about this pair of glasses is the fact that it will let you see your mate in the proper perspective. And fellas, I can just say this without any hesitation. When you treat your wife like a thoroughbred, you'll never end up with a nag. And ladies, I can say this to you, that when you treat your husband like a champ, you will never end up with a chump. But I also will say this to you, that you got to see them like a champ, you got to see them like a thoroughbred before you treat them that way. And that's the purpose of this pair of glasses. Now, how are you going to do all of those things? I'm going to give you one step right now that I will say to you without any fear of error, that if you will do this, and it will take you about 5 minutes a day, that within 30 days you will begin to experience a dramatic difference in every single aspect of your life. Remember, we want to be happy and healthy and reasonably prosperous and secure. We want to have friends and peace of mind. And if we have a family, we want good family relationships. This one simple step, which will take you about 5 minutes a day, will make a difference. Here's what I want you to do. Tonight when you get home, I want you to take the list of qualities which you have written down. And you can add a number of other qualities which you also have. But take these qualities and write them, print them, so that you can read them easily, or type them on a 3x5 card. And if you are other people conscious, a lot of people say, well, I'm self-conscious, but you can do this without any trouble when you're by yourself. It's only when other people are involved, when somebody else is around, that you get a little self-conscious about it. So you're not self-conscious, you are other people conscious, okay? Get in a separate room by yourself, close the door, get right in front of the mirror, take that list of qualities, stand up absolutely straight, square those shoulders away, stick your chest out, and first person present tense, you simply say, I, Jane Smith, am a person with total integrity. I'm absolutely dependable. I am completely honest. I'm wonderfully enthusiastic. I have extraordinarily good judgment. I'm highly motivated. Go right down the list and claim every last one of those qualities. Then when you get to the bottom one, you say long-suffering, and then you say, these are the qualities of the winner I was born to be. Tonight is going to be a magnificent night, and tomorrow is going to be a marvelous, marvelous day. Now, what you'll discover almost immediately is you'll sleep better. And you will dream an entirely different dream. The last thing going into your subconscious is there. Then the next morning, just before you go to work, you get back in front of that mirror and you repeat the process. You stand up straight, you square those shoulders, you stick your chest out, you look yourself in the eye, and you say, I, John Jones, am a man of complete integrity. You go down the entire list, claiming them firmly, enthusiastically, looking yourself, this is so important, looking yourself right in the eye, and with enthusiasm you make those claims. I will tell you, within a month, and probably within a week, you will start to see a difference in you. Now, for those of you who read your Bible, you will recognize that that is right out of the Bible. The good book says, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are of good repute, then think on these things. That is exactly what you are doing with this process. Then what you're going to discover within just a matter of days is this. If somebody who does not know the real you, you see, this is the real you. The person who does not know the real you, ladies and gentlemen, will be beginning to look and understand the real you. And then when somebody says something, like maybe you didn't quite understand it, or you're not as bright as I thought you were, then you can honestly say, what is that old boy talking about? Doesn't he know that I am a person of absolute integrity? I'm completely dependable. I'm completely honest. In other words, you will start repeating those things. You see, folks, the person you are and the person who people think you are many times entirely different people. About 3 weeks ago, I went into one of those places to get me some non-glare glasses. And when I walked in with the redhead, the young man came up to me and he said, may I help you? And I said, yes, I need some of those glare-proof glasses. He said, are you a photographer? And I said, no, I'm not. He said, what are you using them for? I said, well, I'm going to be doing a television shoot, filming, and I need non-glare glasses. He said, are you a producer? I said, no, I'm a speaker. He said, well, what do you speak on? And I said, well, motivation, inspiration, personal growth, goal setting, that kind of thing. He said, oh, kind of like Zaglar. And I said, yeah, kinda. And the redhead spoke up and she said, this is Zig Ziglar. The guy looked at me and said, oh no, I know Zig Ziglar. That is not Zig Ziglar. Zig's always jumping up and down. I've seen his videos. That's the way Zig is. I turned to the redhead and I said, now see there, sweetheart, I told you we couldn't pull this deal off. That guy knows that I am not that one. And the guy said, no way. I said, he probably expected some old codger, 50 or 60 years old. Then this young fella comes walking in, and he knows beyond any doubt that I'm not Zig. Well, when I got ready to pay the bill, he said, now, what's the name? And I said, you spell it Ziglar. He said, you are Zig Ziglar. And I said, yeah, have been a long time. Now, the reason I tell the story is simply this. The picture he had of me was wrong. The picture that a lot of people have of you, including the picture you have of you, is wrong. We're bringing you into focus. We're letting you look at the real you. And the real you is absolutely incredible. December, I was over in Atlanta, Georgia. When the seminar was over, a lady seated in the second row along with her husband came up to me. She said, Mr. Ziglar, my name is Jan McBaron. This is my husband, Duke. I'm the one who wrote you the letter. And I said, yes, Jan, it's a delight to meet you. She said, I just wanted to elaborate on what I said in the letter. She said, like you, I weighed well over 200 pounds for a long time. And as you can see, I am no longer overweight. And obviously it was true, she was not. She said, unlike you, I smoked from 2 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and I no longer smoke. She said, I really drank a little too much, and I no longer drank. My self-image was absolutely at rock bottom. I'd been a nurse for 8 years, and I loved being a nurse. But I started hearing you when you said, if you don't like who you are and where you are, don't worry about it. You're not stuck with who you are and where you are. You can grow. You can change. I heard you when you said it would be tough, but that the rewards would be absolutely magnificent. I heard you say that when you're tough on yourself, life is going to be wonderfully better to you. I heard you when you quoted Dr. Joyce Brothers that you cannot consistently perform in a manner which is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. I heard you when you said that repetition is the mother of learning, the father of action, and the architect of accomplishment. I listened carefully. Let me reintroduce myself, Mr. Ziegler. I'm Jan McBaron, MD. I'm one of 6 women in America who has their specialty in bariatrics, weight management, weight control. She said, I worked my way through medical school as a full-time nurse. And oh yeah, Mr. Ziegler, I like me lots better. Thank you very much. Folks, you're not stuck with where you are. You can grow. You can change.